yeah, that's one of the most important things, I think, even to see the end result of your work. And well, for Schiphol Airport, it's still the case, to be honest, because if I go there, I can still see the same machine standing there already 12, 14 years now almost.
Wow,
and still
that's
there.
Fun.
Yeah. So hopefully, of course, with software products also. But sometimes the life cycle is a little bit faster.
Hey there, welcome to Betatalks, the podcast. I'm Rick.
And I'm Oscar.
And today we are joined by Jos Eilers. Jos is a senior cloud principal at Twyzer, solving data and AI challenges for clients with a focus on Microsoft Azure and Fabric. Welcome Jos.
Wow. Thank you. Nice to be in the show.
Well, it's nice to have you on. So a couple of things first, right? We just said you're a senior cloud principal at Twyzer, and those are two things that people might not necessarily know. So maybe you could quickly introduce Twyzer as a company, and then what your role entails within that company.
Yeah, it's true. So Twyzer is a company specialized in data and AI solutions, and focus mostly on Microsoft Azure and Fabric. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that later on. I know them actually already from previous companies. So the two directors, the bosses, Don and Perry, they started the company, I think now between 4 and 5 years ago already. And going quite well. They're in Moordrecht, close to my house, near Rotterdam. And we have basically a lot of projects. And it's going to be for Azure infrastructure. It can be Fabric, data platforms, data warehouses. It can also be AI. It's also something that recently came up in Twyzer. So for myself, well, I worked there now, I think, 1.5 years. Yeah, 2024 I started there. But actually, I'm a .NET developer. So that's a long time ago already. I think it's already more than 20 years ago. And slowly I moved towards cloud, and then data, and then AI, and that order. And data and AI, I think the last 6-7 years now. Yeah.
So you were actually early to the party.
Yeah, true.
We started in the 90s with the first models, of course. But
here we go again.
What?
Old guys on the podcast.
Yell at cloud. Yell at AI. No, but so in the 90s somewhere we started with the first models, but the big craze has been like for what now? 3, maybe 4 years, but you're already in data and AI part for 5 or 6, you just said. So you were quite a bit earlier, right?
5 or 6, yeah. That's actually also the time, I think 2017, I think. So something around that time that I made a switch actually. Because before it was all about Azure, web apps, databases and all that stuff. And then, slowly it's like, maybe I like to do something more in the data warehouse business and the AI at that time. And then I got the chance actually at the previous company I worked for to make that switch, because it is still a switch, right? From .NET development to data warehouse and everything else. So I slowly grew into that role.
Yeah, but
the last 4 or 5 years.
Basically on a moment that even people with a lot of experience and skill also needed to restart their careers almost, because so many things have changed.
Yeah, true. And also 2017, I think, for example, Azure cloud computing was booming at that time, I think, around that time already, and only grew and grew up until now. So that's true. But still, it's still a little bit of a mind shift, actually, in the beginning.
Yeah, we've had quite a few of those over the past couple of years, those mind shifts. So it's probably something that we will continue to have to do for the foreseeable future. One of the things that stood out in your bio is the fact that you actually started out studying electrical engineering, and then in the end, through industrial automation, moved into the software development space, right?
Yeah, now we're talking also in the, not the 90s, but early 2000s, I think.
Some time ago, let's just say that.
Some time ago. Yeah, that's true. That was more, for example, Schiphol Airport, but also other countries. And it was mostly about industrial automation. So that was about electrical cabinets, building machines, building the controls, so PLCs and all that stuff, frequency controllers. Yeah, and then after that, I slowly I checked around. It's like, actually, the cloud computing is now also interesting, because it did came up actually at that job too, because we also had to interface with flight systems, for example, and with that you already are more involved towards the cloud. And that was 2005, 2006 at that time. Yeah. But yeah, I did it a long time actually, because I really liked also to do the job. It was also quite interesting to meet other cultures, other countries also. So yeah, it's quite, and also Schiphol Airport, to be honest, is also a nice environment to work.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that one.
Yeah.
It's also it's a bit twofold, I think. I live very close to Eindhoven Airport, which is the also quite a big
you mean
airport.
Veldhoven Airport?
Yes, please. And I mean, Betatalks, where we used to work, had an office right next to airport, which meant our lunch breaks would often be walking into the airport and then getting a bite to eat and go back. And now I work at Microsoft close to Schiphol Airport. So if I take the train, I get off at Schiphol. I need to go through the airport to actually walk to the office. Where I want to go with this long, strange story is the fact that whenever my wife comes into an airport, for her it feels like vacation. Whenever I come near a Dutch airport, it feels like I'm at work. Which is not a good thing.
I like the dynamic on an airport, but also picking someone up, or it's always fun. But I can imagine working there, and I did some work in some logistics and stuff. Everything you do, you can basically see the effect of, or you're part in the chain of something that's really big and physical going on around you. Yeah. Also has some magic to it. Like been in the full virtual for the last time, of course, for a long time now. But to actually create a component or create a system that organizes routes, prints stickers, does stuff, or indeed
physical
switches,
tangible
switches lights on. Like, I don't know, it has a certain like feedback loop that is enjoyable.
Oh yeah. So and I'm not sure if that's something that would be interesting for you, Jos, but that's one of the reasons why I have a little bit of home automation, because now I get to find this new sensor that I can put somewhere, and it's not only movement, but it also just detects people being there, even if you're sitting still reading a book, so that I can now not have timed moments in which my lights switch on and off during the evening. So now it goes, they engage half an hour before sunset, and they just die at 12, because that's how I made it. So whenever we have friends over and we're sitting at the table, it will just at 12 all the lights go out. But if we can detect somebody there, that also means that you can literally put them on only if people are there and it's dark enough, and otherwise you don't. It's small stuff.
You get that old school logic again. Before you know it, you're building your own PLC again.
I've at least building my own components that run in home automation. But
it's just code, right?
In the end, it's just code. But that's fun, right? And maybe that's also one of the reasons why it was good for you to move into software development as well, because it's really nice not only to see that your stuff works, but then especially if you see other people using something that you've built and that it works, right?
Yeah, that's one of the most important things, I think, even to see the end result of your work. And for Schiphol Airport, it's still the case, to be honest, because if I go there, I can still see the same machine standing there already 12, 14 years now almost.
Wow,
and still
that's
there.
Fun.
Yeah. So hopefully, of course, with software products also. But sometimes the life cycle
go a bit faster.
Yeah.
No, but like worst thing ever is if a project actually gets cancelled or like after half a year replaced with something they bought while you were really in the process of developing that. That's really sad. It is what it is, of course, because there's probably a good reason for it. But like to come back and see something you built like that, it's fun. I see sometimes stickers at the supermarkets that I designed still being on the crates.
Really?
Yeah. So it's really fun to see.
That's so fun. Yeah, I had this one time, and I've talked about this way too many times, but we have that cultural festival in the village I live in. And there were a couple of years in which I had built the app that actually gave people reminders of where the next thing that they had favorited was going to be. And then imagine being on a festival and somebody taking out their phone and then seeing the app that you've built because they got a notification. Oh, wait, that guy that I really, or girl that I really wanted to see on the other stage is coming in 10 minutes. So I need to start walking. That's still, I think that's the magic of doing stuff with software or automation in general.
Yeah, and you're now in data. So and what is more visible than like dashboards and stuff like that? So tell us what's mostly keeping you busy at the moment.
Mostly it's now lately it's mostly Fabric, I think, for almost 1.5 years now. Because I think in end 2023, right, it became general available. And actually, before that time, I was already testing it, but it was not ready yet for the customers at that time.
Did you go through the evolution of the services that went from Data Factory to Synapse to Fabric? Because to me, Synapse feels like the next evolution of Data Factory, and then now with Fabric, we actually just combine a lot of Azure services and add some magic, which is a thing they do now to make this new product Fabric. Did you go from Data Factory through Synapse and now to Fabric, or was Fabric your tool for the job from the start?
No, it's true. Data Factory was, I think, the first step actually. Synapse a little bit later. Actually, I didn't do really side steps outside of Microsoft, so no Snowflake or no Databricks. I did test them, but not for projects for a customer, for example. So it was mainly Microsoft and Azure in this case. So Data Factory is still the logical choice, and it's still there, right, in Fabric. Synapse is a bit different, I think, because Synapse, what you see now is they put it now on, let's call it maintenance, which means all the innovation is moved towards Fabric mostly. And in this case, that's on Spark, like the notebooks. So for that, it's a bit different. I think all the innovation now Fabric, so it's logical that you slowly shift towards that platform. Not always, of course. There are certain situations where still an Azure setup or a hybrid setup is maybe better for the customer. Can also be.
Yeah, and then especially if you look at, if you have a simple ETL job, then Data Factory will be the weapon of choice because you don't need all of the added fluff that either Synapse or Fabric brings.
Yeah, to be honest, the first one was Data Factory, SQL database. That's it. Yep. And that was enough for this customer.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Also keep things simple, right? When you
If I understand correctly, your main focus is on Microsoft Fabric now. Could you, for people listening who just don't either know or still don't understand, which I can totally understand, what Fabric really is and what sets it apart from the different other services that we have available?
Yeah, so Microsoft Fabric is a data and analytics platform. It's introduced, it's general available since, let's say, November 2023, I think, if I remember correctly. And it's an end-to-end platform and a SaaS platform. So that means you can ingest data and you can do your ETL jobs, and you can also present it to the end user in the form of, for example, in this case, Power BI reporting. It can also be, of course, other ways you can present it to your customer. And the nice thing is it is within what originally used to be the Power BI service, actually. It's in one platform. That means everyone works in the same environment. So that means that a data engineer and a data scientist and a business intelligence person can work in the same workspaces, for example. So the UI is the same, and also it's easy to work with the same data. They have like what's called the OneLake. That means there's one storage in your tenant that you can make use of.
Yeah, they call it the OneDrive for data, right?
The OneDrive for data, yeah.
What I understand, it's more of almost a gateway to all the other spots. It's not like it's a copy or it's like one entry point and you can query all the data stores behind it.
So it can be, you can mirror into OneLake, but it also has the concept of shortcuts. So a lot of customers are, or companies are a little bit hesitant in throwing all of their data in one big chunk, because then what's the single source of truth? So what they do is now they allow you to make a shortcut, which means the data stays in the location it's actually at, which could be an S3 bucket or Salesforce or an Azure SQL database or whatever. So you connect to OneLake and that reaches out to the original store to get the data that you're actually requesting. And then This is one question that I'm not entirely sure. So maybe Jos, you know a little bit about this, because you would expect the querying of shortcutted data to also have an impact on the performance at the origin side. Yeah. But if you read documentation, they say, well, the actual querying is inside of Fabric or inside of OneLake. So it does do a little bit with the data in the origin, but it's not as heavy as running that entire query on the origin. So I'm not really sure how that works yet. But at least those shortcuts are, I think, amazing, because it allows you to add data in a matter of like 5 clicks, and you have an S3 bucket available in your OneLake.
Yeah, that's true. So I think the shortcut, they already have it for a long time. It's still evolving. I know, for example, they're now also busy putting a part of the ETL process actually under the shortcut. So you would be able to do some transformations as part of the shortcut itself. What you always need to consider is it's easy to click it together, right? And especially for all the Azure storage resources, it's easy to do. And also you have for AWS and some others already available. But you always need to consider how much capacity is going to use in Fabric. Yep. And the other part is, of course, if it's egress, it also is cost on the outside in this case that you need to consider, because every time someone gets the data, that means you will do the query. There are some caching options there already. So that's something you can consider, of course, to make it a little bit more cost effective, but it's something you need to consider during designing how much capacity it's going to use, how much cost will it bring with me when I create a resource every time.
Yeah, but then in the end, looking at it a little bit at a more meta level, so to speak, that's something you always need to do, right? I mean, we've always learned to only get the data that we actually need for the request. So if you pull in everything and then say, I just need that one column, then please just only ask for that one column, because it's going to be a lot more efficient to do things.
The funny thing is that these things normally get promoted by, you don't have to think about that.
Yes, fair enough.
Yeah.
But like, how is because the transformation, it takes CPU cycles, so it's compute and stuff like that. And where I am, we use Databricks, Azure Databricks environment, and you can really see their serverless environment then spinning up and using some resources. Sometimes like, guys, the budget that we pinned, you're at 80%. They're like, oh, I'll figure it out. And they're back to 10% somehow. It's easy to tweak, but it's also easy to just explode when you build something new. Like, how is that in Fabric then? Do you assign like compute to it, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's actually something I had to get used to be honest. The first time I started working with Microsoft Fabric. So they use capacity units. So basically you buy in for, let's call it 1 day. Yeah. And then of course the different scales. Like we start with F2, F4, F8, and so on. And every time you go one level up, it means basically double price. Yeah. So you get a certain capacity that you can use throughout the day. But you can use it in 1 day. You can also use it in 1 minute. Because basically, if you have, let's say, an ETL job, for example, the data factory again, the data pipelines, and you do some mappings there, for example, XML, for example, if you flatten that out, it costs a lot of capacity. So that's also something you need to experiment with upfront. How much will it cost me to do this part of the ingestion, and how much capacity am I going to be using for development, test, acceptance, production environments? And that's of course different from pay-per-use. Because here you reach a certain limit, like 100%, and you're even allowed to go beyond that 100%. You can go up until 200, but then after that you will get another problem. Your cost will not explode, but your pipelines will start to fail. And that's something that you need to think about. That's different.
So there is a planning in there how you arrange the resource. But I can imagine you can also quickly build something without that concern to get to like basically end result, and from there look backwards, like what did I actually need to slim it down again? Like that's your iteration, I would guess.
Yeah. And there's actually, Microsoft has some nice apps for that, the metrics app. So what I did in the end, first time with the first customer, is I used that app and determined based on that where is the the loads, which of my pipelines is actually eating away a lot of capacity, and work on that first. But that metrics app will help you out to balance it out, to see what kind of skill do I need, or which part do I need to improve.
Okay, that's cool.
So the thing I would like to try and discuss a bit is, if you look at Fabric and then the idea of OneLake under it, it would be a central location for all your data, right? That's the general idea. But sometimes you have data, and then you have this data pipeline that needs to go over it so that you can move data into information, which also means you might have one or multiple steps in which you want to persist the outcome of transformations or enrichments or whatsoever. Is that something that you can do inside of OneLake itself? Is that something that you do with different tooling? Is it still ADF or Synapse that's available within Fabric to do so? What would be your approach?
Well, there are a couple of things you can do. You have, for example, you have lake houses and warehouses, where lake houses you store your data in the Parquet Delta format, and warehouse is more like the traditional SQL database as you know it. And then you have like the sort procedures and the views and all that. And originally, if you wanted to look back, right, you would maybe even in a warehouse, you would build several columns, put some timestamps there so you can look back what the data was. That was the original approach. But another thing you can do is what they call the time travel. It's a concept that's available for both. And then you can just look back in the table, what was it 1 day ago, 2 days ago, up until I think at 30 days, if you set it like that. I think default is now 7, if I remember correctly. So there are several ways you can do that. It depends a bit on the requirements.
That's always the case, right? We just had a previous recording. It depends, because we were consultants. So it always depends.
But it's fun to see how this evolves. Imagine, like we used to come at this from a database perspective. If you then, like, well, we have this data set. It's basically a snapshot. It's a relational data set. It's like, I want this for reporting, but then with a time dimension on it. It's like that was like almost an impossible, and you basically locked down your design because you couldn't move it anymore after that. And now to see that these tools are just basically I'll just plug in and we'll do it. Like the redundancy, the data storage, it doesn't matter anymore. And you get that completely detached from your running system. It's such a luxury if you compare that to the old days.
Oh, for sure. And it's crazy if you see how big of an amount of work actually probably goes into providing all of that. I mean, just like a service, right? So that's I think the added magic that Azure has, because we've had this discussion previously, and especially in the early days of cloud, people said it's just somebody else's computer, but that's not true anymore for a long time now, because all of the added magic of the platform and all of the added services on that platform make it so much more than just somebody else's computer.
It's a bunch of abstractions that fit all kinds of jobs, and it's a toolbox. Good luck with it.
And of course, we started
with a bill.
Fair enough. We started when Azure had like 5 or 6 services. We're close to, we're over 200 now, if I'm not mistaken. So there has been some change. How has it been for you?
But we're running already for 11 years on the same portal now, so that's good.
Yeah, well, we're getting a new design.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to preview.portal.azure.com, you can flick on the try new Azure thing.
I'm going to check it later.
It's not shocking. It just makes a little bit better use of screen real estate. And
Blades kind of got removed, right? Yeah, whatever.
Anyhow, so old men yelling at cloud. Jos, when did you jump on the Microsoft or on the Azure bandwagon? Was that when we still had the Silverlight portal, or did you join when we had decent portal to work with?
I think it's the second one, to be honest.
Okay. Well, good for you. Good for you. Because and that's probably something that you encounter in your day-to-day job as well. Azure now is so, or any cloud provider for that matter, is so vast, and there's such a humongous amount of services that it's almost impossible to navigate which service to use when, right? And then I think what you're doing is focusing more on the data and AI challenges that are available. So that narrows down the choice a bit. But even if we look at AI, I mean, we have services that you can use out of the box, LLMs that we can use out of the box, but then we have services that you could use out of the box or train your own model on, or you could use an LLM and then add your own data to it, or you could, I mean, there's so many options and tools and choices available. Not only looking at the more than 11,000 models that are now hosted by Azure AI Foundry. How do you navigate that with and for your customers?
Yeah, you cannot try to do that actually to keep up with both sides, keep up with the Azure infrastructure, the AI Foundry and all the models, and also the Fabric side, which is basically impossible to do because even the Microsoft Fabric in the beginning, I remember every week I had to check what is new, what's going on, what are the current issues that are going on. And if you try to do that for all the platforms, you cannot keep up. So you need to divide a bit. So for example, I did also some AI projects actually for Twyzer, not half a year ago. And after that, also a product was developed, the Data Genius. But for example, for that product, I'm not involved. There's a team who now works on that because basically they can keep up with all the innovation going on, also in the Microsoft part. And I focus more on the data warehousing at the moment. And maybe there will come some time again that I will switch back a little bit. And then I need to also get some knowledge again, of course. But to do both at the same time, it's quite hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oscar.
Is it that time?
It's time for a totally random question.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to ask it. So, Jos, if you had to delete one service, if you can delete one service forever in Azure, which one would it be and why?
Wow, this is a tough one.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Well, to be honest, we were just talking about the AI Foundry. I don't want to say I want to delete it. I do want to delete the UI. That's part of it. Because it is a problem, actually, to navigate through. So it's not maybe not the service, but actually the portal that's being built around it. So the first one kind of comes up to mind now.
So you don't like all of the chat playgrounds and video playgrounds and that you have to have a project, or is it now a hub? Or, I mean, that thing is moving at such a tremendous pace that if you know how to navigate it yesterday, you might not know how to navigate it tomorrow, right?
Exactly. That it changes every day actually, because like I said, I didn't check for several weeks, and then we were together and we needed to check something, and it's like, wait, the buttons are already gone. How do I get to the management hub now? So
I wouldn't know how it looks like at this moment, but like I have that with more like lately with Azure services. I was there clicking around this week. It's like, oh, this changed. And then I was thinking, it's like, I've deployed a lot of things here, but I don't think I was in the portal, because last 5-6 years, like everything was basically just infrastructure as code. And if you're not doing the experiments, then you might not end up in the portal at all. Like I'm guessing Foundry, you can just push models to with Bicep, right?
Yes, yeah, of course. I would almost say, of course, because everything you do in Azure or in the portal or whatever, I mean, it all goes through ARM, so you could do Bicep anywhere. But
you see more and more for these services that you basically go to the Azure portal and then it pops out its own management portal thing around it. Like, and for like external services like Databricks or whatever, makes complete sense because they have their interface. But indeed, I saw it in the beginning with the Azure OpenAI thing. It's like you needed to go there and then.
And even before that, we had
deploy a model there.
Yeah. And even before that, we had Document Intelligence that got its own portal. And then we had Custom Vision that got its own portal. So there's Azure Data Factory also actually in the end has its own portal. Yeah. And Synapse has its own portal. So, I mean, I can also imagine that if the product or service that you're building or that you've built is so complex.
Yeah, but it's not so much as a service like compute or storage. It's not a basic service.
No.
It's product.
Yes.
It's you're looking at the product, like, and it's part of the cloud, of course, but
And it's okay, right? I mean, the product also needs a portal, but the portal should also be a little bit like not changed on a daily basis. Maybe that's the reason why sometimes you also have like other front ends, for example, which connect to the AI Foundry to maybe also solve a little bit of those issues to keep it a little bit more like what the customer wants.
Yeah, but it's annoying if they're moving your cheese all the time, indeed, and your button is different, and you get all kinds of pop-ups. What's new that you're not needing at that moment, like.
And then you want to get it back once you have the time to actually look at it, and then you have to find it again.
Yeah. No, like some of these things are annoying. Rick, do you have a service or not? You would like to delete, or
crap?
Cannot you say officially?
That's a good one, actually. I would really need to think about it. Yeah, because in the end, I'm going to be political correct here. In the end, it's the same as whatever discussion I might have with customers. I always say when they come and ask for how should we progress towards the future, I always try to say, I might say stuff about your current implementation that's not relatively easy to hear. It's not because it's not valuable, because it brought you to where you are right now. So it
was the correct choice with the knowledge at the moment, and
and at that point in time, and it got you to where you are right now, which is at a point in which you can think about how can we improve towards the future. So I think if I look at Azure and its services, now nothing jumps into mind that hasn't had additional value in getting the platform to where it is right now and getting the adoption to where it is right now. The few services that might have been there are already gone. But I would actually, after you answer your service that you would like to kill off, I would like to go and the other way around and talk about what service are we missing, or maybe what service has made most impact on you over the last couple of months or years, where you think, wow, that's such an added benefit. So I'm giving it back to you.
An impact?
No, first the one that you want to kill off. If you
that's easy. VMs. Why in a world would you want to have a freaking full OS?
Hot take.
It's like, of course they need to be there, but you shouldn't be able to manage them yourself. It's unnecessary waste. No, of course, but that is a service that brought us there. So you're nuanced indeed. Like,
to be honest, it is still bringing a lot of customers.
It's still bringing customers to be able to make the jump, of course. Yeah. But if you're building something new and you're starting a VM, it's like just building your own hardware to put in a rack somewhere. Yeah. If you don't have a really specific use case, why are you doing that?
And a limited amount of time for you to be doing that use case, because then after that you should be transitioning over to something
the
else.
idea of managing an OS and the security patches on it. Yeah. And of course the managed skill sets and whatever that are basically a VM, fine, of course. But unless you're indeed still lifting and shifting, which I hope will get less and less, but I still think there's a lot of people needing to make the first move yet. I don't think those
discussions on. Now, I'm not going to say on a day-to-day basis, but at least once every 2 weeks, I have that discussion why people should move.
Yeah. Yep. But no, that.
Fair enough. So, Jos, going into the other side of the discussion, for you, if you look at a service that has had the most impact on you over the last years, or maybe you have an idea for a service where you think, why isn't this available in the cloud yet? What would that be for you?
So there are a couple of services, but let's say if it's Microsoft Fabric, I would say I like the direct lake concept actually with the semantic model and on the warehouse. So that's a new option where you can just deploy a report and it connects directly to your data through a semantic model, and it uses the direct lake connection. And because I saw a lot of customers actually, they were suffering from maintaining a semantic model, what used to be called a Power BI data set, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and it got also slower and slower because, for example, they used, import mode, and this concept is actually quite fast. The performance is quite good. That's the what I so far saw with the customers I had, and it's not everyone knows it yet, so that's why I bring it up. like have a look at it, play with it, the direct lake. The other one is actually I think the Spark clusters in Fabric I also really like. That's also so notebooks and Spark jobs, and that you can use for your ETL jobs. So in this case, more for big data. And the performance of that one I also like, especially if I look at performance and also look at compared to, for example, the capacity I actually need over there. Yeah, I'm quite impressed, to be honest.
Yeah, we talked about compute a bit earlier, but if I'm not mistaken, within Fabric, you have one definition of compute, which then actually allows you to run either a pipeline or a Spark notebook or something else. All the compute is actually shared across all of the different services that are part of Fabric, right?
Yeah, it's basically tied to one or more workspaces. That's how you usually do it. So in your workspace, you would have, one or several tools and storage. And basically every tool that you run, so the data factory, the pipeline that you run, it will consume then based on the Fabric capacity that is configured over there. Yeah. So you can also set it up in a way that's, for example, you can split up based on the deployment street, for example, but you can also, for example, think about, okay, this is for production, this is for experimentation for data scientists, and that way you can set up your workspaces and also set up the capacities in that way.
It's I've had some discussions with customers on Fabric. It's still, I think, something that's relatively unknown, even though it's a potential very big game changer for people doing stuff with data, maybe wanting to do stuff with AI, and then wanting to show that data visually. One of the things that actually does stand out as far as that discussion goes is you're part of data and AI. I think it was our VP of sales or marketing that said no system can be smarter than the data over which it reasons, which also means if your data is crap, then your AI is going to be crap. Yeah. Is that something that you've actively encountered while working these projects?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, it's still the garbage in, garbage out, of course. But what will help, of course, if this platform is you can make it a little bit more transparent. You can more quickly see where the data quality needs to be improved, for example. So you have the tools to improve it and to make it a little bit more visible for yourself. But in the end, of course, still the data is very important. You can, of course, also with Fabric do the same thing, right? You can connect it to Copilot or you can connect it to the AI Foundry. That's also what is being developed now. Mm-hmm. But you have still the same problem.
Yeah, that's going to keep on being a thing, or maybe even it's going to continue increasing in importance.
I think it's going to be more and more important, but because you see, like especially if you start developing software, not so much rules bound, but more reasoning bound. Like you're building software based on models that are doing that. If your data is shitty, you might, you get derailed. It's really hard to keep that intact because it's going to be wider. While you had a normal piece of software that used to read columns, do things that you could predict. Yep. If you basically, look at that data and it's basically converted into flat text and thrown to an LLM. The side effects of having some data in there that wasn't that high quality get bigger. Yeah. So I think it's more and more important, not only in the training, but like in the execution in the end.
Yeah. Jos, is there anything that you would like to get back to or that you would like to add on what we've already discussed today before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I think for people, please check Microsoft Fabric. Just you can get a trial, for example, and play around with it. Get some experience with the environment. I think that's the best thing to say.
That's a good idea, and
then hire a professional.
To show you how to actually work it, right? We'll add a link in the description of the episode to make sure that people will be able to find it. Thank you so much for being our guest. It was a very interesting talk. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. And thank you for listening to Betatalks, the podcast. Betatalks is made possible by Betabit Managed Software Development.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.